Today is February 13th, 2020. We're in Berochos Daf Mem Aleph. We had a Tamri Zika. If we hold that what these dates were, that they were blown off the tree, Hainu, that's why in our Mishnah, the Hachakoyle Noivlois Stama. So that's, the Mishnah referred to dates that were inferior. That's why the bracha changes. So that's why over there we're talking about Noivlois. V'hosam Koyle Tamran. Here you call them dates that were blown off. So there's an afkamina between them. Elmanda Omer, who held that the definition was bushli kamara, that it meant not the dates that were blown off the tree, but rather that were baked in the sun. So nisni Eidav Eidi Noivlois tomorrow or Eidav Eidi Noivlois Stama. Why would you have to have two different terms? They're both the same thing. Kasha. Okay. Then the Mishnah said, Hayil fun of meaning harbe. You had a number of different fruits. So there was a machlokes. Rabbi Yehuda said if the fruits were one of the seven of the Sheva minim, like chita, saora, gefen, te'ena, v'rimon, eretz, zeichem, and udvash, you had a pear or an apple, they both have the same brach of boy praetz, but you would have a kedima of the ones that fall under the seven fruits of Eretz Yisrael. However, the other Mandamer said, no, whatever you want to eat first, that's the bracha you make, or that's the fruit you take. It's based on what's chaviv to you. Amr Ula. So Ula actually defines it better. Mechulekes b'shebchosein, machlokes b'shebchosein shavos. The machlokes between Rabbi Yehuda and Chachamim is when you're talking about they both have boy praetz. Rabbi Yehuda suffered min shiva adif, because an apple and a pear are not one of the sheva minim. So if you had one of the sheva minim, you would eat that fruit first. Rabbanan suffered min chaviv adif. No, you eat whatever you like better. We paskin, by the way, I didn't bring my daf hachaim, but I looked at all the halachas today. We paskin that it's the sheva minim. If it's one of the sheva minim, you eat that one before you eat the one that's not sheva minim. Now, aval b'she'en b'chosein shavos. But let's say the brachas are different. One's a boy pre'adama, the other's a boy pre'etz. So divrei hakol mevarch hazeh v'chozer mevarch hazeh. So then there is no kedima. Then it's whatever you want to eat first, you eat, you make the bracha, etc. Meisru ask a kasha, hayilafad of tznoin v'zayis. You have a radish and an olive. It says mevarch la tznoin upoiter tazayis. It says you make the boy pre'adama and it potters the fruit. Now the zayis is one of the sheva minim. So this seems to be a kasha on the one that says that the sheva minim always goes first. Of course, there's no raya from there because hachma eskinon. Here we're talking about with ikar and tofel. Remember that when you have a mixture of something and something is primary and something is just tofel to it, you always make the bracha on that which is primary. So hachma eskinon kishat soin and ikar. Here we're talking about a case where the radish was the primary part of the dish. That's why it gets the bracha. But in a chanami, if it wasn't ikar, the zayis would get the bracha first.
I just want to ask him. I think we went over it last time. Just to remember, if I like a certain fruit more than the Shivas Haminim.
So the Chachamim said you'd eat that one before. According to Rabbi Yehuda, doesn't make a difference. Okay. According to Rabbi Yehuda, you would make the Sheva Minim first.
That's if you're going to eat them on both, all of them.
Yeah.
But if you don't want to eat them, the Sheva Minim, you're not forced to eat them.
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. So if you're talking about Iker v'Tofel, Ema Seifa, say the Seifa of the Mishnah. It says Rabbi Yehuda Omer, that if you have a debate, Rabbi Yehuda says on the same case, Muvarch ala zayis, shazayis min shiva. So, and does Rabbi Yehuda not hold of Iker v'Tofel? I mean, if you talk about Iker v'Tofel, why would Rabbi Yehuda have you make the bracha on the zayis? Lastly, Rabbi Yehuda understand kol shu Iker v'imo tfela Muvarch ala Iker u'poitus at tfela. I mean, Rabbi Yehuda accepts that's such a Ferish to Mishnah. He's not going to argue with the Ferish to Mishnah. So maybe v'chite machanami de leslei. So maybe you're going to answer me, no, Rabbi Yehuda doesn't hold of this din of Iker and Tofel. The Gemara says, I'll show you he does hold. Vatanya, Rabbi Yehuda Omer, im machmas tzoin ba'azayis, if the reason that the olive was there because of the radish, mavarch latznoin, but there's azayis. So he does hold of Iker and Tofel. So what's the pshat? La'olam b'tznon Iker askin. We are talking about where the radish was dominant. The chiplik, Rabbi Rabbanon, their argument's something completely different. The Chesur Metzora, and there were some words missing in that Mishnah. And this is how you have to read that Mishnah. How you fun of tznoim zayis. You have a radish and an olive in front of you. Mevarch al tznoim u'potter zayis. You make the bracha on the tznoim, which is a boy pri adama. It potters it potters the zayis. But edvar mamurim kash tznoim nikr. That's when the tznoim is primary. So that's why you get the tznoim. That's why the bracha on the tznoin is made. Aval ain't tznoin ikr, but if the tznoin is not ikr, divrak kol mevarch al zeh v'chozer mevarch al zeh. Then each one gets its own bracha. Ushnei minin be'alma shebrachos shavois. And if you have two species that have the same bracha, mevarch al ezim and sheyirtzeh. Chachamim say you make whichever one you want to eat, but you don't mevarch al azayis. In a case where the bracha is the same, so then you have to choose the one that's the Sheva Minim. Shazayv min Shiva. Now, Pligi Baravami Rav Yitzchak Nafcha. Ravami Rav Yitzchak Nafcha argued. Chadam machloikas b'shuk chosei and Shabbos. There's a machloikas between Rav Yudah and the Chachamim, even with the same bracha. Rav Yudah sover min Shiva adif, Rabbanan sover min Chaviv adif. Like what Penny was saying. The Chachamim hold that if you want that fruit more because you like it fruit, you would eat that one. And Rav Yudah says you would have the min Shiva. Aval b'shein b'chosei and Shabbos. But the brachas are not the same. You make two different brachas and there's no kedima. That even if the brachas are not the same, there would be a machlokes. That the sheva minim would take precedence. So I understand very good according to Mandama that says when the brachas are the same, there's a machlokes shapir because boy prayer eats, the sheva minim. El Mandama b'shein b'chosein shavos pligi, but my pligi. I mean, what's the machlokes? On Rav Yehuda Hagdim. The machlokes is Rav Yehuda would be magdim the boyer prayer aids for the sheva minim. The Amar Rav Yosef, v'tem Rav Yitzchak. And there's another machlokes. Kol mugdim b'pasuk zeh mugdim lebracha. For example, let's say you only had sheva minim, and you have to pick between the sheva minim. Oh. So there's an order in that it's eretz chitus or gefen utein of the rimon, eretz zechem udvash. So there's a kedima. Rimon goes before this one, and this one goes before this, based on where they are in the pasuk. Shneimar eretz chitus sora ugefen utein of rimon, eretz zechem udvash. But this upligid Rav Chanan. But this is in contradistinction to Rav Chanan. Rav Chanan that the pasuk does not give me a kedima. The pasuk teaches me something completely different. What does it teach me? It teaches me dinim of shiurim. Kol pasuk kulo l'shiurim nemar. What do you mean shiurim? So I'm going to go each one. Chita. This nan hanichtas lo b'bayis hamenuga. So we know that there's such a thing of negoim. So people get negoim on their body, but you can have a nega in a clothing, and you can have a nega in a house. And if the Kohen comes in and declares that the house has a nega, so everything inside it is tameh, you got to bring it outside. Then you have to break it if it doesn't get better. Now, if you walk into such a house, the kelev al ktefav, and you're carrying clothing on your shoulder, you're not wearing it. And he's carrying his shoes and his rings in his hand. He's not wearing them. So, hu v'hein tmei miyad. He and the things he's carrying become tummy right away. However, hayalavush kelav v'sandolav baraglav tabayis v'desbas. He's wearing his clothes, he's wearing his shoes, and he's wearing his rings. Hu tummy miyad. So that doesn't affect him; he becomes tummy right away. However, hein, those items, the clothing, the shoes, the rings, tahoirin ad sheyishe b'chtei achilas pras. He has to dwell in that house for a period of time. Otherwise, they don't become tummy. How long does he have to stay in that house? The time it takes you to eat half a loaf of bread, which is usually 9 minutes. We know this din from B'chtei Achilas Pas. For example, the mitzvah achilas matzah. So, if you sat there and nibbled a kazayas, but took you 2 hours to nibble the kazayas, you wouldn't be yotzei. You have to eat the kazayas within the 9 minutes. Okay. Similarly, a piece of chazer or a piece of tarfus. If you nibble on it, chatzi shir also b'natori. You're not allowed to nibble even less than a shir, But in terms of malchus, you would not get malchus unless you ate the prohibited food also b'chtei achilas pras. If you nibbled on it, it took you 2 hours to eat a kazayas, you would not get malchus. You're not allowed to do it. Okay.
By the way, Soras, can you catch it by being in the same room, or Soras does?
No, tsaras, according to the way the Torah explained it to us, was a spiritual disease.
It's not
Lashon
corona.
hara.
Yeah,
No, and it wasn't even leprosy. Tsaras was not, it was something else that we don't really know what it is. By the way, leprosy is not a very contagious disease.
Right.
It's not. I mean, they used to put them on an
fear.
island, right? I mean, they put them in places, but it's not very infectious. Like these infections, corona, influenza, it's like 90%. They'll just the infectivity rate is extremely high. But there are some infectious diseases where it's very hard to get the disease. You can be in the room with them, they can be sneezing on you, etc., and they don't transmit. Well, anyways, what is this din by chita? The Gemara does pas chitin v'lo pas so'irin. And it's not any pas. When we say kidei achilas pras, of a pas, it's going to be wheat bread and not barley bread. Mace of leaning, v'oichlon belifton. And like having a hummus, being able to dip your bread. It's a whole... This b'chtei achilas pras is defined this way. What's the din of sa'ora? Right? Because we're saying that the pasuk of eretz chita sa'ora, gefen te'ena v'rimon, eretz zeichem udvash, is teaching me a dinim in shiurim. So chita is to teach me this din of b'chtei achilas pras, pas chitin. What's sa'ora? It's not etzem kisa'or metame b'mago v'masa, ve'ena metame b'oil. So a mace, a corpse. So a bone the size of a barley bean is metame you if you touch it, or if you carry it without touching it. For example, you put it in a box and you carry the box. That's the difference between mag and masa. But if you have a barley-sized piece of bone in a room, it's not metame b'oil. But for example, if you have a kazayas minames in the room, it's already metame b'oil. Right? It's a much bigger shear. That's of basar. Okay? So the din of sa'oira teaches me the din of a bone. Gefen, kedei revi'as yain l'nazir. That a nazir takes a vow not to expose himself to tumma and not to drink wine. How much wine? So it's revi'as yain. And this din of gefen comes to teach me the din of by a nazir. Te'ena is a fig. So the din is kegroigros lo yitzah Shabbos. So for example, we know on one of the blachos of Shabbos is hoitzah. I cannot go from Rishus HaYachid to Rishus HaRabim, or vice versa. Or I cannot carry Daled Amis Rishus HaRabim. That's hoitzah. Now, in the Masechet Shabbos, we'll learn, there are shiurim that describe what it is that you have to carry a certain shear in order for you to be chayiv. And what the shear is kegroigris, the size of a fig. That's we'll see. That's in general by food. Now, by other things, we're going to see there's a certain standard depending on the item. Depends what the size it's going to be.
Is there a drop on it? I mean, that's only a chadchila.
No, that's midoraisa. Like saw that you're going to be chayiv, skila b'mezid or kares b'shoigeg. That's what we're talking
Any
about.
amount, even if it's tiny.
No, you're not chayiv. No, you're potter of a losser. You'd be potter of a losser. Rabbinically, you wouldn't be allowed to carry. Now, we're going to learn that there are heter ways of like for example, you make your akira and 2 amas and stop, 2 amas and stop. That l'chora may be mutter because there are ways to go that way. Now, what's the din of rimon, pomegranate, kiditnan? Call clay balabatim, shiurim kirimoni. That meaning, kalim can also be makabel tumah. Like if you have a kli in a room with a mace, the kli becomes tumah. Now, how do you remove the tumah? You break the kli. That's one way of removing tumah. Now, if you have a soup bowl and it has a hole in it the size of a marble, so you could still use that soup bowl. And it's still considered a kli, and it would still retain tumah. If the kli gets a hole the size of a rimon, so then it's an os kli. It's not a kli anymore, and it loses the status of its tumah. So we needed a sheer rimon. Eretz Zeit Shemen, on Rav Yossi Bar Chanina, Eretz shekol shiurei kazesim. That comes to teach me that it's a land, Eretz Yisrael, where most of where the shiurim lahalacha is as kazayas. I mean, you just gave me all sorts of examples where the shir is not kazayas. The other ones you mentioned Rimon, you mentioned Te'ena, you have other shiurim. The majority of shiurim and halacha is kazayas, right? If you're going to eat, how much matzah do you have to eat on Pesach? A kazayas. How much more do you have to eat? A kazayas. How much do you have to eat of chaylev or of chazir to be chayiv? It's a kazayas. So the roiv of our shiurim are kazayas. Dvash. Remember, Eretz Zeitzemenu Dvash in the Torah refers to date honey, not to bee honey. Bee honey is something else. Their honey was made out of dates, like when you went to Hadley's in Palm Springs. You bought date honey.
Yeah.
Right.
Still around?
That's a good question.
I don't know.
I think it's there. I think you can barely notice it because it's all built up around it. I think it's still there.
I think it's there too. I think we stopped there with the family.
Yeah.
We used to stop there with the
Banana
family all the
chips,
time.
did all those
Haley,
things.
you mean?
Hadley's.
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 Right? Yeah.
No, because dates. That was the date. Indio is the date capital.
Yeah.
Okay. So what's the shear of Devash? Kikoisevas agasu b'yom Kippurim. So on Yom Kippur, there's a shear where the achila gives you kores. You're not allowed to eat on Yom Kippur food. What's the shear? It's not kazayas. It's not kibetza. It's kikoiseves, which is the size of a large date. That's the shear of Yom Kippur. So the other Manda Omer told me that this pasuk is coming to teach me kedima by brachas. So the idich hani shiurim bahade miksivi. So what does he do? How does he learn shiurim? He says these shiurim are not written in the Torah. The shiurim, it's elamid rabbanon. All these shiurim are rabbinic. Ukra smachta ba'alma. The chachamim found a pasuk to sort of, it's a mnemonic for them to remember, something to lean on. That's what asmachta means, really, to be soymech on it. But it's not. It's all midrabanan, anyways. So you don't need that pasuk to teach me that. Now, interesting case. Rav Chizdav, Rav Hamnuna, two Amiroim, Havu Yasvi Besudasa. They were eating in a suda together. Aisul Kamaya Tamriv Rimoni. They brought them dates and pomegranates. Shakal Rav Hamnuna. Rav Hamnuna went, Baruch at Tamre Beresha. And he benched on the Tamar first. Now, the Pasuk says, Eretz Chitus Ora, Gefen Utena V'Rimon, Eretz Zeichem Dvash. What comes first? The Rimon comes, the Tamar is the Dvash. The Dvash is the last thing in the Pasuk. The Tamar is the first, the Rimon is much earlier. So how could Rav Hamnuna bench on the Tamar? Amar le Rav Chizda, lo severely Mar lahada Rav Yosef. You don't hold of Rav Yosef, Rav Yosef, that kol amuktam b'posuk zekodim levracha? You don't hold of that sheet? Amar le, yeah. Zeh sheni le'eretz, v'zeh chamishi le'eretz. Gentlemen, look at the Pasuk. It says, Eretz, the word Eretz, Chita Se'ora, Gefen Oten Rimon. Rimon comes 5 words after the word Eretz. Then the Pasuk says, Eretz Zeit Shemen Udvash. Dvash is 2 after the word Eretz. That is more, you follow what is it, and we paskin halacha like that. So if you have date, so date is number 2, and it precedes all the other fruits. Right? Chitusor is the same, but Geffen, Te'ena, Verimon, the date is really earlier, because Geffen is 3rd from Eretz, and Tamar is 2nd from Eretz. Wow, who's going to build a big stand for him to have you give us more great halachas like this? Itmar. Person's eating a suda, and then in the middle of the suda, at the end of the suda, they bring him figs and grapes. Ravuna, to unin bracha lifneim. So you've made a motzi already, but now that they bring the fruit, you got to bring another bracha. They ain't tunin bracha lachrem, but the benching will cover them. You don't have to make another bracha immediately, like a bracha me'in shalosh, for example, an ala michya, like a boy praetz and then ala michya and then bench. No, you have to make a boy praetz, and then the benching will cover you. Rav Nachman to unin bracha lifneim, ve'in tunin bracha lachrem. However, Rav Sheshes Amar to unim bracha bein lifnei and bein lachreim. He says that if you bring fruit in the middle of the meal, you have to make a bracha before and after. She'en lecha davar sheton bracha lefanav ve'en ton bracha lachrav. There's nothing that has a bracha before it that doesn't require bracha afterwards. Ela pasa ba bekistin bilvad. The only time is if you have a mezoinos kind of meal within it, then the benching will cover it. But otherwise not. However, this is an argument with Rav Chia. Dam Rav Chia, pas poiteres kol minei meichel. So, according to Rav Chia, when you make a moitzi, it covers everything, including the fruit. So that's why it argues with Rav Chia, because the previous mandorim brought that if you bring fruit within the meal, you got to make a special bracha. And
Because you had in mind when you washed that you can eat that, the fruit.
even without the mind, pas poiteres kol minei meichel, Rav
I'm
Chia.
talking about the fruit came in the middle of the meal, and it wasn't in mind that you were going to, when you washed for the mostly, that you included that fruit. It came later.
Well, let's hold off with the mind for a minute. Right now, Rav Chia says pas poiteres kol minei meichel. When you make that moitzi, it covers everything in the food. The yayin poiter kol minei mashkim, and when you make the ber per geffen, it covers everything else. So you might bring beer, you might bring this, you don't have to make another bracha. So Omrav Papa, Hilchasa, Dvar Maboy Machmas Asuda, B'toch Asuda, Ein Tu Unim Bracha Lo Lefnei Bracha. You eat your Suda. You bring a kugel, they bring farfel, and they bring meat. That's all things part of the Suda, they don't need special brachas. Now, the Shalom Machmas Asuda, B'toch Asuda, to Unim Bracha Lefnei Ve'en Tu Bracha Lo. That's fruit. If we bring fruit, we make us boyer praetz in the middle of the meal because it's not considered something that was brought as part of the Suda. Part of the Suda means that which you eat with the bread. And fruit is not done that way.
If you have a dessert, you have a mezainis.
If it's fruit. No, mezainis is covered.
Cake at the end.
It's covered.
You don't say bracha, right?
No, you don't say, just fruit.
Just fruit. I think shakal is machlokes, no?
Shakal on what?
Let the have an ice cream.
Let's see. That may be, we'll have to see. Shulchan Aruch doesn't say any of that. The Shulchan Aruch just says that when you bring the payros afterwards, you make a boyer priya eitz. These other things, we'll have to look at more modern poskim to see if there's anybody who holds it. If you bring something else dessert, I always hold that that's covered by the Yamaitzi. But maybe not. I've never made a boyer. I make a boyer priya eitz all the
You
time.
serve nuts. Nuts at the end of the meal. You have, almonds.
Yeah, but the almonds are boyer priya eitz.
Pistachios?
Yeah.
What are
Those are boyer priya eitz, same as the
It's
fruit.
not a fruit, though.
It's got boyer priya eitz.
So the question is it an eights or is it a fruit? It's different.
It's not a boyer priya eitz.
So if you put a banana and you make an adomo, you don't?
No.
Only on 8s you make?
I believe.
It sounds like you're qualifying it only to eight.
Ain't to any-
Let's say they're on the table.
Shalom machmas b'toch hasuda kagon daisa. So that's like a cereal. V'chein kru v'tradin she'en lifter v'born l'mazon l'soiva. Oh, there. The lav tfeilininu. V'ena b'chal lechem. The nifter b'chal samotzi. They're not considered lechem. So l'chura v'lo chen the minei mazon ninu b'chal. So you might have to make the muslin, but the benching will take care of it. You certainly don't have to make an ala mechia afterwards.
But if fruit's on the table when you make it initially, then you don't have to. If
Then
the
you
fruit's
start
on the
to
table
do-
when you wash.
If it's brought machmas
That's
asuda, probably
machmas.
not.
In the middle, so here it's talking about bedavka. You bring it in the middle of the suit after you wash.
So we have to look up regarding. Let's say they bring you a shahakol or they bring you a ber pradama, but it could be anything. It could be anything would require their own bracha.
Find out.
If you go to a restaurant, you know.
Shalos ben zoyim ne'man udvar maboy machmas asuda b'toch hasuda. Why is it that things that were brought within the suda ain't to bracha lo lefnei v'lachreim? Omelam hoilu pas poitrasam, because the bread covered it. Yachi yain nami nifteres pas. So let the bracha on the bread also poiter the yain. Shiny yain degorim bracha latzmono. Yain is choshev. We make brachas for it when we get married and the milah and all these things. So it's entitled to its own bracha. Okay. Good Shabbos, everybody.